Sunday, September 6, 1987. Bill and Rhonda McCart were in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, visiting his family when they decided to go out for a drive. It was approximately 3 p.m. Less than 3 hours later, Rhonda's mother, Louise Thomas, who lived 100 miles away, got a call telling her that Rhonda was missing.
I said, "What do you mean Rhonda's missing?" Said, "Well, they went for a ride. They had a fuss. She got mad, got out of the car. He went down the road, turned around, and came back to find her, and she wasn't there." I knew instantly something had happened to Rhonda. After I composed myself, I called the state police.
Detective Foster, can I help you?
I told the state police that I knew that she was dead or bad hurt someplace. It was a feeling that I had. A mother's feeling, maybe. I don't know, but I knew that he had done something.
Bill, I appreciate it.
The next morning, Detective Rob Foster contacted Rhonda's husband, Bill, to help in the investigation.
I questioned Bill as to what had taken place the day before when he last saw his wife. And Bill gave me a story that he and his wife had taken a drive, that they had gone to a rural part of Hardin County, that they had an argument about what he called family problems. She got out of the car in this rural area. Bill said at that time he drove on down the road, the gravel lane, just out of sight, over a little hill crest. He said he turned around and drove back to where he last saw her, and she was no longer there. I asked him specifically, did you see any other cars? And he said no. He couldn't tell me which direction she went. She obviously was not on the gravel road, and he alleged that he drove on back to his relatives' home and told them what happened. It was not a very good story, a very credible story to where you had good factual details. It was very difficult to get any details out of him about what actually had taken place. And I was suspicious. I asked him to accompany me to the location to where he last saw his wife. He'd give me directions where to stop. I said, "Tell me exactly what you all did." He would say something like, "We had an argument over family problems," and he never would give anything specific that would make a person, particularly his wife, mad enough to get out of the car 100 miles from home, not take any money, purse, leave behind a baby, and just walk off and leave him. I had trouble believing it.
Though it had been less than 18 hours since Rhonda was reported missing, Detective Foster brought Trooper Reed Smith and his bloodhound Flash to the area Bill said he had last seen Rhonda. The dog was given a scent off a blouse Bill provided that was recently worn by Rhonda.
Smell it up. That's all it takes. Find her, boy. Rob, if you would, just stay close to me. Just don't get in front of us. Okay. Usually when a bloodhound is scented off of an article of clothing, if there's a track to be found and it's not too old, they'll pick it up and go home with it. We worked about 2 hours, walked over a lot of ground. The dog didn't appear to ever take the scent.
We did not get anything, and that made us believe that she was not at that exact area, that he was lying to us. At one point, we actually told him that we felt like that he had killed his wife, that he had killed her for reasons of marital problems, and he stuck with the same unemotional, well, that's the way it happened. Okay, the next thing. We've got another dog. This dog is different. It does not scent from clothing or something that your daughter would have worn, but from air scent.
I said, "In other words, you think she's dead?" He said, "Yes. What is your gut feeling about it?" I said, "By now, yes. She is probably dead." The waiting that night was pure hell. I prayed. I cried. I wondered, is my child alive? What is she thinking? Where is she? Is she dead? Everything went through my mind.
By Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., there still was no hard evidence of murder. So they called in an expert, Trooper Fred Davidson's 3-year-old German Shepherd.
Bingo was a German Shepherd in my canine unit. He came from Germany. We purchased him over there in 1986. Bingo's unique because he's the only dog in Kentucky that's trained in cadaver work. There's very few in the United States, matter of fact. It's a real new thing that's being taught dogs.
Worked about a half a mile in each direction.
Get the dog out. An air scent dog doesn't use a scent article or anything to start a track. What he does, he puts his nose to the wind and searches airborne scent to home in on what he's looking for, like a dead body or a live person hiding, or even buried bodies. He can locate those. They've got a nose that can smell things that we never dream of.
Pick it up. Bingo. Bingo, here. Pick it up.
Bingo takes his obedience commands in German, but he understands English also. So we use German, and that way the dog doesn't pay any attention when somebody says something to him in English.
Here. Pick it up.
If he smells a human, his ears will go up. He'll become real attentive to the spot where it's coming from, and then he can home into it. But in this case, he wasn't alerting on anything.
Through the investigation, we learned that Bill McCarg had a $75,000 insurance policy on Rhonda that was double indemnity, and that he wanted us to find his wife dead so he could get the money.
We was aimed to take him and give him a rest, and us too, so we got in the car and we was driving around up and down this road where she was last seen.
This is thick. Nobody can carry anybody back in there.
We were discussing with each other if we were going to murder a person, what we would do with the body. I think we both noticed at about the same time that there were a set of ruts in the road.
Looked like where a car had spun out of the field onto the roadway, like it was left in a big hurry. So we decided just to go back there and look. I let Bingo out of the car, and we was just looking around, generally seeing, you know, if something was there that wasn't supposed to be. We was walking around to look, and Bingo was out in front of us, and all of a sudden he alerted. He'd hit on something. His ears come up, he was real excited, he was running back and forth, he had his head up, trying to find the origin of the scent. I said, we have made us a find here.
Show me. He's got something, Reed. Let me check it out here.
As I was making my way down the ravine, I could see Rhonda's legs. That's all I could see from her because of the underbrush.
The body, Reed.
I'll go call for the coroner.
You know, you get a sinking feeling anytime you see someone dead.
Wait, Reed, she's alive.
Well, you don't know what an elation it is to see somebody that's still alive after everybody thought they were dead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? He won't hurt you. He's a state police dog. He won't bite
The
you.
dog had scared her, evidently. She thought it may have been a wolf had come down out of the hills and was going to eat her.
All of a sudden, instead of calling for the coroner, I was calling for an ambulance.
We found Mrs. McCarg.
Husband shot me.
She couldn't move. She couldn't even move her hands or anything.
How many times?
So it had to be pure terror for her to be out there for 2 days in that condition.
I want to move you till the ambulance gets here. We've got an ambulance on the way, okay?
I didn't know whether she would live or not. She was real, extremely weak. But then, you know, I was thinking, anybody this tough, this much of a fighter, lay here 2 days in this condition, if we can get her help, she will make it.
Rhonda, this is Reed Smith. He's a trooper here in this county.
Rhonda, do you know what happened to you?
They shot me.
Rhonda told me that they were having some marital problems, that they went for a ride in the country. They'd pulled up into a dirt lane where they'd sat and had a lengthy conversation. They had had sex. And then after they dressed, Bill had got out of the car and opened the trunk and called Rhonda to the rear of the car that he had something he wanted to show her. She told me that as she walked to the rear of the car, he pulled out a pistol. And as he was holding it on her, said, "The police can't trace this because it's not in my name. It's never been in my name." Rhonda said she tried to run from him, He caught her and twisted an arm up behind her back and led her to the edge of this ravine. And Rhonda said she begged for her life. He told her it was too late for that. How can a human being do this to another human being, especially one that you were married to and had a child by?
The first ambulance arrived within 13 minutes.
Bingo really took to Rhonda. He seemed to know that he'd saved this girl's life, and he was proud of it. Like when the EMTs got there and was wanting to work on her, he was real protective. If I hadn't been there, he'd probably bit one of them.
She was conscious, but she wasn't real well oriented. Well, just to put it short, she looked like a dying victim to me. She had no pulse I could detect. She had no blood pressure that I could detect.
So we knew we immediately had to do some fast work to try to keep her alive till we got the air ambulance down there. We turned the patient over to check and see where the entrance wounds were. There were no exit wounds, but she had been shot 3 times.
Talk to me now. Can you feel this? Okay, what about down here? Can you feel it?
It does run through your mind that the patient is not going to make it, no matter what you try to do.
As soon as he was notified that Rhonda McCarg had been found, Detective Foster rushed to the scene.
It bothered me to know that this woman had been there for nearly 2 days while we were talking with her husband, you know, listening to him tell his weak story that we never did buy. It bothered me, you know, to think of how cold and insensitive someone could do that to anybody, much less your own wife. Y'all care if I ask her a couple of questions while y'all working?
No, go ahead.
Rhonda, can you tell me what happened? She gave a few details, but I tried to let the EMTs work on her because it was obvious that it was a life-death situation, and I felt like getting her out of there was probably the most #1 priority. And she talked about her family and her 2-year-old son, and it was very emotional.
Rhonda told them she'd stayed alive through it all because of her son, Brian. She could not bear to give up and leave him alone with the man who shot her.
I guess I prayed that she would make it. You know, it was so close and we had found her. You know, you don't want her to give up then.
I recall a big tear running down my cheek because I felt like what I'd done that day really made a difference. This lady still had a chance at life.
At Humana Hospital, University of Louisville, Rhonda was treated by Dr. Steve Reese.
Due to her multiple bullet wounds and the fact that one of the bullets had completely gone through the spinal cord, there was no question, even initially, that Rhonda was going to be a quadriplegic for the rest of her life.
In Hardin Circuit Court, we had a jury trial at which Bill McCarg was convicted by a jury of attempted murder of his wife, Rhonda McCarg, and was given a 17-year sentence in the Kentucky Reformatory.
When I found out that Rhonda was alive, it was just pure joy.
Rhonda's rehabilitation has taken 1.5 years.
Even though she will never walk, just having her alive is wonderful.
Her son is 5 now.
Rhonda and Brian, of course, they live with me. They are a great joy. They laugh together a lot. They fuss together a lot, like all mother and children.
Brian keeps me going because even though I'm in a wheelchair, he's my inspiration. I'm grateful for just being alive and to be here for my son.
She has to be a real strong-willed person to survive all this and still keep the attitude she's got today. And I brought Bingo by to see Rhonda and her son, which I'd never met her son. Bingo, he acted like he remembered her.
There is a special place in my heart, and always will be, for Bingo. I just know if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here.
You are a good dog.
Saving a life means being prepared. If your community does not have 911, post the emergency numbers in your area by each phone. This series is dedicated to all the men and women who risk everything to save the life of a stranger. I'm William Shatner. Join us again next week for more true stories on Rescue 911.